Hello and welcome. My name is Angie Holden and I'm the blogger behind the Country Chic Cottage. Today we're going to talk about this HTVRont Swing Away press. So this is their HTVRont Manual Press. So while it looks sort of similar to the auto press version, it's actually a manual press and you'll manually close it, and it is a swing away press, so this top swings out of the way. So I'm going to cover the press itself, and we're going to make a few projects. I'll cover how the press works, and then I'll give my honest review. Now before I get started, I will say that I'm not a huge fan of swing away presses. I'm more of a fan of a clamshell type press just because they take up less room. So for this swing away press, you are going to need room for this top portion to swing away from the bottom portion. And for me, that gets really restrictive in my space. So I generally do not like a swing away press. But I'm going to give this my honest review, but keep in mind that you will need that extra space throughout this entire video. Now what comes with this press? You get the press itself, it's fully assembled, the cords are even attached. Then you'll get a controller and it will sit beside the press, and you do need to just plug this controller in. So it's just like kind of a USB, and we're going to plug that into the top. That's literally all of the setup. And then you get a manual explaining the press itself. Then the press also comes with a pad on this bottom portion, and it is already attached. So it is similar to their auto press where it has little elastic loops on the side, and it is removable, and I'm assuming that you can get a replacement version for this. And then also for things that might require heavy pressure or a firmer surface, you can remove this. You can just use the bottom plat and you could put a board in here, things like that. So the projects I'm going to make are HTV, a few sublimation projects, including some thicker items, but I'm also going to press a white toner print because those require heavy pressure. So I want to put this press to the test, like heavy pressure, light pressure, how does it work? So first we're going to take a look at the control box itself and how that works. And then we're going to take a look at how to adjust the pressure on this press. So you want to plug the press itself into a power outlet, and then you can press this button to turn the press on. Then a time and temperature will display. If you want to change the set temperature, you can just turn it to whatever temperature you like. So let's go with 270 and just short press to accept that. So now it's going to heat up to that 270 degrees. To change the time, same thing. So let's say I needed 15 seconds, then just short press to accept. When you're ready to start the time, once you add your item into the press, once you close it, long press on the time button, and that will start your time countdown. Press it at any time to stop it. Now this timer does not automatically start when you close the press, and it does not automatically stop when you open the press. You do need to manually press the buttons. Now let's take a look at adjusting the pressure. This knob at the back of the press has two directions. One says up and one says down. When you turn it in the up direction, this is lifting up. That means it's less pressure on the surface. If you do it in the other direction, or down, it's lowering this top platen, and that will mean more pressure when you close. Now there is no pressure readout. You will just have to sort of feel on the pressure itself once you put in an item, and just kind of see how much pressure it's applying, and just go by feel as you would with other manual presses. Let's start with the shirt we're going to apply HTV to, and this is a thicker shirt, almost a sweatshirt type material. I'm going to put the shirt itself into the press, and I'm going to preheat while this is heating up. So I'm going to do this at 305 for 15 seconds because that was the recommended time and temperature for the HTV that I'm using. I want to go ahead and preheat this shirt. So I feel like that closure was probably a medium pressure. I might go up just a little bit. I feel like that's a little bit better. So that's about a medium pressure, which I like for HTV. So I'm just going to preheat for a few seconds, and then you can swing this completely out of the way. You can even swing it all the way behind you. You just want to make sure that you have room and that you're using this safely. That platen is very hot, and you don't want anyone to touch it, especially when it's in this position where you're not paying attention. It did beep when it came to temperature, and I'm just going to add the HTV. Now this is a double layer and I have both layers. I'm just gonna peel that top layer off and press just the first layer. Go ahead and close it, and this time I'm going to do a long press on the time button in order to start the countdown. You don't have to hold this closed or anything, so your hands can be free during the pressing process. Once it's done, it does beep. Then I can move that out of the way. Go ahead and peel off the carrier sheet for that first layer. And then I'm gonna line up the second layer. Now my second layer carrier sheet covers the first completely, so I don't have to do anything else, and I can shut the press. I did notice something when it completes. You need to hit the temperature button one time to go back to the screen with your time and temperature. And then we'll just peel this one back. And I must say, this press did HTV beautifully. So now let's move on to sublimation. I'm gonna go ahead and turn this up to about 385. The first sublimation item I have is a garden flag. Now the heat press platen on this is about 15 by 15, so this small garden flag fits perfectly, which I really like. I'm gonna go ahead and preheat that garden flag. The same pressure is probably good for the garden flag. Then after that preheat, we'll just want to lint roll the surface, and I'm going to put protective paper under my garden flag to protect my mat. Then I just printed out some cute ghost designs, and I will have all the designs I'm using for the projects I'm making in the description below this video. Add a few pieces of heat resistant tape to hold that into place, and then use a piece of protective paper to cover the top. And then we can just rotate it back and press this down. Once again, long press to start the time. Once that time is up, again, you'll need to press on the temperature button, move this out of the way, and then we can peel back that sublimation print, and my ghost flag is super cute and it turned out great. So now I am going to use the same protective paper. It does not appear to be any ink on it. And I want to make this coaster. And in order to make that, I'm going to need to turn this up to 400 degrees. The maximum temperature is 410 degrees if you needed to know that. And I'm going to do this for about 75 seconds. And I am just going to preheat this a few seconds just to get my pressure right because it's thicker. So I'll need to move this up. And again, it's just sort of a feel, and I feel like that's a good pressure. So we'll go ahead and move this out of the way and allow it to heat up to about 400 degrees. I'm going to go ahead and lint roll the top of that coaster. Then I have a small sublimation print of that same ghost. Add it to the coaster with a couple pieces of heat resistant tape, protective paper over the top. Once that's heated up, I'm doing 400 degrees, 75 seconds for this one. Once that time's up, we'll swing this out of the way. And on this one, I'm going to check the sublimation. Just make sure it's sublimated before, and it did. So now I can peel this print back. I just sort of peeked under it, but I can peel it back, and the sublimation looks great on this one as well. So now we're gonna work with this white toner print. And if you've seen me do white toner printing, you'll know that I printed on this paper, which is the A paper. And now I need to marry the B paper with it, which is like my adhesive. You do need to do that with some pressure. So this actually needs to cool down because it's only 300 degrees is my temperature. So while it's cooling down, I can sort of adjust this pressure. And it's definitely going to need to be more, so I'm turning it in the down direction. I'm actually going to turn it all the way down. And I think I'm going to go with that for my pressure for this one and see if this works. So I printed out several of this ghost design. I'm gonna cut away one set of printed ghosts, and the B paper, I'm gonna cut it a little bit smaller then my A paper. And for this process, it does help if your pad is hot. So this is about cooled down. So I'm gonna go ahead and close this and allow it to cool down to the 300 degrees while heating the pad up and getting the pad really hot. So now the press has cooled down to that 300 degrees. So I'm gonna lift it up, and remember there's nothing inside of here. I just wanted to heat that pad up. Then the order is going to be A paper, print side up, B paper with the liner side or the wording up, and then another sheet of like silicone baking paper comes with it. And then we're just gonna close this 300 degrees for 90 seconds. Long press on the time button to start the countdown. Once that time is up, just going to swing this out of the way. And it's important to leave this because it needs to stay hot. So leave it on the mat. And then we're just going to peel that B paper back. And you can tell if it sticks or not, if the adhesive sticks, and it does look like it worked fine. So we are going to go ahead and press this one to the shirt and see. First thing we want to do is just sort of trim around the design. That adhesive can leave an edge around the outside. And I'm going to take my shirt, put it in the press. I'm just going to preheat that. Now the pressing portion of this needs to be 300 degrees for 30 seconds for the material that I'm putting it on. So I'm just going to adjust the time, but the temperature's fine. And then we'll just add our design to the shirt. And I like to use just a couple pieces of tape to hold that into place and cover it with that same sheet just in case. And we're going to press 300 degrees, 30 seconds. Again, I have this all the way down. So as much pressure as you can use with this press is what I'm using. And when that's done, we'll swing that out of the way. Now this needs to completely cool before we peel it off. So I'm just going to move it off and use a DTF cooling block over the transfer. Then once I have this completely cool, I'm just going to remove that top sheet, and all of my ghosts stuck so well. So this really did work. Now, white toner printing, you will want to do a post press just to make it a matte finish and make the durability longer. For my post press, I use a T-seal sheet over it, and the same time and temperature for the press works. Once that time is up, just move that out of the way. You can just cool this for just a couple of seconds and then peel that sheet back to reveal your cute ghost design, and it looks great on this shirt. So I was able to make a variety of successful projects with this press. First, I used HTV for this cute ghost shirt. Then I moved on to sublimation, first with a garden flag with, of course, some cute ghosts. Then I did a car coaster to sort of vary the surfaces and the thickness. And then finally I followed up with white toner printing because it uses a heavy pressure. And all of these worked great with the HTVRont Manual Press. Now, pros and cons of this press. So the pros, obviously it worked well. It is also very inexpensive, so it is a really great value for your money. You are able to get like a heavy-ish pressure with it. I don't think you would be able to get extremely heavy pressure with this press just because it's not very hard to close. And normally with a press like this, if it's very, very hard to close, that's when the pressure is extremely heavy. So you might struggle a little bit with some heavy pressure items, but overall I was impressed, especially since it did the white toner print. For me, the pad is pretty firm, which I like. I personally like a firm pad on my heat press. The press overall was super easy to use. The dials are easy to use on the handheld device. Now the cons. I mentioned I don't really like a swing away press. I still do not. I just don't like how much room it takes, and if you have little ones, how dangerous it would be for that hot plate to be over to the side or behind the press. For me, a clamshell just works better in my craft space. However, if you have the room for this one, it might be for you. And then having this controller separately over here where I had to hit the button every time I closed the press and hit the button every time I opened the press, you could probably get used to it. However, it's something you have to remember. And I tend to forget to press the buttons because I'm used to a press that starts automatically when I shut it. So that would be the only thing with the external controller. And then the controller is wired. I did want to mention that. It is not wireless, so you would need it fairly close to your press. However, the wire itself is pretty long, so it could be at a distance if you needed it to be. So overall, this press is a great value for the money. I actually like it better than the AutoPress version from HTVRont. I didn't like the AutoPress version because it only opens, you know, about this much and it doesn't move out of the way. At least with this one, I could move it out of the way and see what I was doing over here to put my items into place. So I actually liked it a little bit better than its more expensive counterpart, the AutoPress, which you might find surprising. However, that AutoPress, I just really wasn't a fan of it, and I wasn't a fan of not being able to control the pressure. With this one, I can control it, turn it up and down, so I did like this press overall, and I do think it's a great value for the money. Now, is this a professional press that you would use in a business? Probably not. You would probably want a more professional press for business purposes, or if you wanted something that auto opens to make your processing faster, things like that. Or if you wanted like an easier close type of thing, if your hands hurt, you might opt for a different type of press. However, for a beginner press, I do think that this hits all the marks if you have the space for a swing away press and can handle that space and keep everybody safe around it and not touching that hot surface. So now, if you have any questions about this press, drop down in the comment section, ask away. If you like this video and it helped you, give us a thumbs up. If you haven't already, head on over to our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. We have videos just like this one every single week, and trust me, you don't want to miss any of those. So thank you all so much for joining me, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.